How does documentation help build trust with your public adjuster? Well, building trust with clients is our biggest, piece of the puzzle. What I always try to tell clients is the more information you can tell me up front that allows me to better understand your situation, um, is important. For me, I always direct them to my website, direct them to other people that know me, and ensure that they know who I am and how I work with them above and beyond what they're hearing from me directly. The trust factor comes here. A lot of people, unfortunately, are not as honest as we all want them to be. And honesty is everything, because as much as I am not a lawyer, I do represent you in a way for your property, where I'm representing the property in a fashion that correlates in that way. And what I have to say is, if I can't understand and believe what you're telling me, the insurance company is not going to believe what you're telling me. So there's an issue. So I would honestly not take certain claims, because there is not a level of trust there where I believe what they're telling me to be forthright. At the same point, I've been around people that had 6, 7 claims in their life. I can't tell you what happened before, but what's happening now is real. And I don't have to worry about what happened before, because they're here now and someone's insuring them now. So that level of trust allows them to realize that I will do everything I can to represent this situation and not have to worry about what the past was. And there's ways that we work through that to ensure that we get them coverage for what they have today, and make sure that we don't have any kind of obstacles, because they realize that our value is there for them as they gave us their full value up front. That's the relationship and trust that we want with our clients. We also develop these same relationships with adjusters, with all the insurance companies that we meet with here in Pennsylvania and Jersey, and as well Maryland, that we're licensed for. Should I document my property when I first purchase my policy? It's a great question. What I always try to say here is, if you look at one of the standards in the industry, State Farm, when they give you that policy, if you read through your policy, one of the things that actually mentions in a paragraph in the back end of it is, get a professional Xactimate estimate of your property. And what they're recommending to you, and what I do recommend, is do an evaluation. Let it be that you record room by room all of your, interior and exterior pieces of your home, because God forbid you have a fire, you have a real loss where it's all gone. That's all you have, is that video that's in the cloud that'll allow the rebuild above and beyond the walls and the drywall. We now know what the furnishings were, what the other aspects were within. The other thing that's important is, sometimes today, I do meet with families who maybe bought a home a year ago. And what they're finding is now that they're in their home, do they have the right coverage? Someone hears about, possible loss. They find out that they don't have a loss. They talk to me. I look at their policy. I don't even understand how they got it. One of the things I find is this: people conform for a mortgage when they move in. That prevents them from maybe having a full boat insurance policy, because the numbers didn't jive. But here he is a year later. Things can change in, households where maybe they can afford $175 more a month. And that is the difference from having a basic policy to getting a full boat, all inclusive, HO3 with additional endorsements that give you what we call like the donut. And this is something we'll talk about, and I have talked about in the past. A donut either has a giant hole in the middle of it, or it's stopped. And what I try to do when I speak with people is ensure them to understand that policy. So going back to the idea of, do I document things when I get a policy? Yes. You do want to document the house. You want to document the property itself. But without question, you want to kind of keep up on it. And you want to be able to know that not only the property is structured properly, but the policy itself is structured in a way that will betterment you. Maybe you bought the home as well, and your basement wasn't finished, and over this last year, you finished your basement. You need to check your policy, make sure your endorsements allow you to have proper coverage for that basement. Good question. What is the best way to store and send documentation for an insurance claim? Our office, when dealing with the insurance company, we do everything by email, because it's tracked, time-stamped in a professional manner which allows us to utilize laws that work with their insurance, mainly here in Jersey and PA, where they have 45 days to respond. Well, you leave a voicemail, used to say it was you that left a voicemail or what have you. So the cool thing with the documentation here is by sending an email out appropriately and getting it to them, if it is accepted, you'll get an email back automatic that tells you that the email has been received. In insurance, that's so important because everything is a timeline. Every time we communicate, it creates a new timeline. So we ensure the fact that we're emailing. I leave voicemails all the time, but the email is the biggest piece that we use. Even with my clients, they text me all the time. I'll tell them, hey, do me a favor, send me that by email. I'll have it for the future. I'll have it and be able to save it. Technology, although we talked about this in the past, we use Dropbox. It ensures that we're able to get information and pass information off that much easier to clients and or to the insurance adjusters that we're dealing with and insurance carriers. What is the worst scenario for poor documentation or no documentation for an insurance claim? Going to give you the big D, denial. Denial is what the number one thing is with insurance carriers when documentation is not provided or improper documentation. Sometimes, this is one of the things we try to say, over and over, is by hiring a public adjuster, you have the ability to have a narrative that's going to work in your favor. Otherwise, the insurance company is going to come out with their own narrative. So what happens here is you don't have any documentation. You call them, you didn't get a public adjuster. They walk through your home, they see the water leak, they see it's December, and then they say to you, denied. And how's it possible? They say you didn't keep your heat on. The reason they say that is, how do you have a frozen pipe? Things don't freeze unless it's below 55. If your house is heated to 55, that could have happened. So the assumption that they made is that you don't heat your home. So what do? We make sure in that scenario, because now that you were denied, I get these claims all the time. We reevaluate what just happened to you, why this happened the way it did, and we ask you some basic questions. What was going on during that day? Oh, you had an event going on? You had 50 people in your home? This is actually something that just took place for me. We look over everything. I say, well, let's look at all the maintenance for your units. Let's look at your heating for your units. Gentleman sends me a year's worth of bills. Everything looks like it's been maintained for a year. Everything looks like it's been gassed up month after month. That you're buying gas, things are working for you. So how do they do this? Because you didn't have documentation. You didn't have proper representation. So on a claim, which by the way is a $250,000 claim at a $2.3 million house right here in New Jersey, this was denied. This is now through the process of the insurance company. We had to go through their appeals process, which I provided all the proper documentation for their appeals process. Their 3-tier panel of adjusters, like judges, come back and overturned their decision, and now they're re-inspecting the property and bringing out a contractor to look at the rebuild for what was actually denied, told you get nothing. So this is why we say documentation is everything, and why I always believe hire a public adjuster, hire 21st century public adjusters, hire Ronnie Gelfont. Let me help the influencing of what you believe to be correct to be the right response we get for your insurance company. I want to work for you. Let me do this for you. It's my pleasure. 21st century public adjusters, Ronnie Gelfont, here in Newtown, PA, 215-485-3107. Website, 21stcenturypublicadjusters.com. Visit me, see me, like me, all the different things that make sense, but do like this and do follow if you would. Thank you.